Hello and welcome back to Darnyougluten. Spring is here in Europe and Easter is just around the corner, so I thought I'd do a special video this week. I'm going to be using a lot of chocolate, and when I say a lot, I mean a lot. I'm going to be using milk, white and dark chocolate, because why would you leave any of them out? And what better time of year to eat a whole load of chocolate than Easter, right? When else do you get to eat so much chocolate? You don't. Okay, so let's make the most of it. If you're on a diet, you're probably going to want to look away now, because this recipe is not for the faint-hearted. It's true. You might even have to share this with someone. I mean, yeah. But, you know, if you're like me, you could probably manage to eat a whole one by yourself. And if you want to eat the whole batch by yourself, tell anyone. Okay, now before we start, there's a couple of things you need to know about chocolate. First of all, is chocolate's number one enemy is water. So whatever you do, don't add any water to try and thin out your chocolate. It will just end up seizing the chocolate, which means it goes very quickly, really solid, kind of grainy, and just looks really unappetizing. If you accidentally get some water into your chocolate and it seizes up, don't worry too much. It's not completely lost. You can still use that chocolate, just not as tempered chocolate, so you probably won't set properly at room temperature or whatever, because chocolate's fickle. It has to be done quite precisely. But if your chocolate has seized up, just boil some water and then add it 1 teaspoon at a time to your seized chocolate and stir it in really quickly. It will turn back into a liquidy kind of chocolate, and then you can use it in recipes. You can pour it on whatever you normally pour chocolate over, and you know, it still tastes fine. What I normally do is, if that happens to me, I just boil up some milk and stir it in with that and have a really good hot chocolate. So don't worry if you mess up your chocolate first time round. So I am not a chocolatier, I am not a professional cook or baker or anything like that. I'm just a student who loves to spend some time in the kitchen and spend some time eating some really good food. So tempering chocolate can seem quite a daunting mission, but if I can do it, you can do it. It's really not that hard, especially for this kind of recipe where I'm going to be keeping it in the fridge, which means it's not going to melt as much. Keeping chocolate in the fridge does have a few side effects. It can lose its shine, and then the chocolate can take on some of the humidity in your fridge, so you don't want to leave it in there for too long. But chocolate mousse inside won't last for that long either, because it's made with fresh cream, so you want to be eating it within a couple of days really. There are 3 parts to this recipe. The first part is candying the mint leaves. Super easy, super quick. You just do them and then let them dry. The second part is making the bowls or the nests. And then the last part is making whatever you're going to put inside. In this case, it's going to be that chocolate mousse. So let's go and start on the mint leaves. So for this first part, you're going to need some fresh mint leaves, some sugar and 1 egg white. And if you're feeling extra adventurous, you can also add some edible glitter. You're going to start by separating your egg into the yolk and the white. So just crack your egg, split it into 2, and then pass your yolk forwards and backwards between the 2 parts of the shell, and the white will just drip down into your container, and it's as simple as that. Then you're going to choose some nice mint leaves from your mint plant. Choose the ones you feel like will look the best on your dessert. I chose a variety of sizes, but I think the larger the leaf, the easier it is to do the next step. So there you go, whatever you want. Then you're going to coat each mint leaf with some of the egg white. You can use a paintbrush, a pastry brush, or like me, just use your fingers. Just be careful not to break the leaves. and delicately cover the leaves with the egg. Make sure it's completely covered. Sprinkle sugar over the egg white on both sides, making sure to have the leaves completely covered, and then set the tray in a warm, dry place where they can set for a few hours, and they should go a little hard, not completely solid, but they'll go a bit hard and be ready to use for decorations. Now, if you're like me and you also want to use the edible glitter, then feel free to either add it to the sugar and have them completely sparkly, or you can just do what I did and re-dip the edges of the leaves into the egg white, and then roll the edges of your leaves into a little bit of the glitter, and just adds a little bit of extra sparkle to your dessert. Now you've done your mint leaves, you've got to start making the bowls or the nests that you're going to place your chocolate mousse in. So for that you will need 150 grams of white chocolate, 150 grams of black chocolate, a half to a whole teaspoon of peppermint extract, depending on how fond you are of mint chocolate. I used a whole teaspoon and my bowls were quite strong mint wise, but that's personally what I enjoy. And then you will need some food colouring. Now I use gel food colouring. This is completely optional if you don't have any. Don't use water food colouring because, as I mentioned earlier, water and chocolate really don't work together. And you could probably use powder colouring, but I haven't ever used them before, so that's up to you. Start by chopping up your chocolate into pieces that are all reasonably the same size. If your chocolate has already in squares, then that's perfect and super easy. Put 3/4 of it into a heat-safe bowl, and then you're going to melt the chocolate. Now you can do it the old-fashioned way over a double boiler, making sure that your bowl does not actually touch the water, and have a cold bowl on the side ready for you to plunge in to stop the chocolate from overheating. Or you can do the simple way, put your bowl in the microwave for about a minute and stir, and then keep putting it back for 10 seconds at a time, continually stirring between bursts in the microwave to make sure you don't burn it. Now you only want to melt your chocolate until it is about 3/4 melted, as you can see here, and then gradually add in those last few pieces. This is how you're going to be tempering your chocolate. Now you can add your flavouring, so peppermint extract, and stir in quite thoroughly, and then add your colouring. I used a mixture of teal and green to get that peppermint colour, but you can do purple or yellow or pink, whatever you want to do, and then stir it in well. My peppermint extract did contain a little bit of water, so I added in a tiny bit, about a teaspoon of coconut oil, just to thin it out so it was easier to coat it onto my balloons. Then I had some balloons that I blew up to the smallest size I could actually blow them up, so that they actually had a circular shape. And then I just dipped them in the chocolate, swirling it around to get a nice thick coat of the chocolate around the bowl. Feel free to also spread it on with a spoon. Make sure that the bottom where you've placed it on the greaseproof paper, that you don't have a hole in there so that your filling doesn't fall out, and make sure that the top bits aren't too thin, because otherwise when people pick them up they will just snap. Then the next part is to make the nest design. Now I'm really sorry, when I film this You can't actually really see what I'm doing, unfortunately, but basically I'm just using a fork to splatter chocolate over the bowls that have already started to set. So just from a bit of a height, gradually adding layer by layer some strands of chocolate over the bottom of the bowls. Then you can also pick the bowls up and spatter them horizontally to get strands of chocolate going in every direction. Now, you might have noticed that I was wearing a white jumper at the time, which I really do not recommend, as chocolate gets everywhere, however hard you try not to, and here you're actually splashing chocolate everywhere, so yeah, white jumper is not the best idea. And then once you've done them, just let them sit at room temperature until they've completely set, and then you can remove the balloons, which is a lot of fun to do. You simply have to pop the balloon, and then the easiest thing to do is to remove all the air and then just peel it out. If you don't remove the air, then with the pressure in the balloon you risk snapping your bowl. So make sure you delicately get all that air out and then just peel them out. I find that really hypnotic, the way it just peels. And there you go, you're done with all your decoration parts, and that's what the bowls look like empty. I'll see you in part 2 to see how to make the filling.